Hello everyone, I am Alejandro Montesinos Castellanos, leader of the strategic project on technologies for CO2 capture, use, and reduction in manufacturing. I am thrilled to introduce the panel discussion, Additive Manufacturing in Future Competitiveness, where we will explore how additive manufacturing will shape the future. Without further ado, I welcome our panelists and hand over the floor to our moderator, Victoria Treviño, Advanced Manufacturing Engineer Head and Nemak Company.
Thank you, Alejandro. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, we have a very talented group of panelists. Let me introduce you to Alejandro Córdoba, Advanced Prototyping Leader at Nemak, Osvaldo Elizarrarás, Engineering Director at FRISA, and hello, Francisco Franco, a specialist in additive manufacturing at Siemens, Mexico. The nature of the manufacturing industry has always been identified as one that thrives due to innovation and technological evolution. From the early beginnings with the Industrial Revolution and the steam engine, advancing to Henry Ford's assembly line, Toyota with the development of lean manufacturing, and in more late years with the incorporation of robotics and automation. Nowadays, it's very common to hear about artificial intelligence and Industry 4.0. But in a time where sustainability is the key for our future, the additive manufacturing comes to the center stage. Our first question for all three panelists is, how are these sustainable technologies helping to enhance the innovation and competitivity in the industry? Osvaldo?
Hello to everybody, and I will say thank you. I'm very pleased to be invited to this Congress to return to my the school where I got graduated. So, manufacturing, additive manufacturing technology has evolved as a tremendous technology that is disruptive now the production systems. Industries are being asked more and more to come to new solutions that enhances the time lapse for the production manufacturing and also to get the properties and to get the final shapes of the products. Unlike traditional technologies where several stages in the manufacturing supply chain had to be go through these acquiring supplies. This new technology allows to reduce cycle time of the prototyping, to reduce waste time also on the material execution, and of course, accelerating the design thinking of the new product development processes. The complete supply chain of the manufacturing system had been transformed to get the right parts at the right time in the right place. So we are shrinking that supply chain manufacturing system and get products in place where it's needed on the right time. So additive manufacturing is completely a disruptive solution, and industries are getting the most advantage of it.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Osvaldo, sorry. Alejandro?
Hello. Well, he said a lot, so several points of my list, but one of the things that I can see at Nemak is the speed, the agility. And sometimes we can develop a process in traditional ways, 16, 17 weeks, so it's a lot of time. So with the additive manufacturing, even it's faster than simulate a process. For example, at Nemak, we can make a lot of loops, a lot of quality loops pretty fast. I can design a core package, I'm from foundry industry. So I can design something, print during the night, and cast to the next day. And at the end of the day, I have results. So with those results, I can take decisions, I can make some modifications, and I can make a new package. So the iterations are pretty fast. So the development is pretty fast. for example, in the past, when I get into to Nemak, the traditional time for our development was a year, maybe a year and a half. Today, we can develop a process, a part in 1 or 2 weeks. We can deliver parts in 3 weeks. And it's not a very easy part, it's a complex part. Imagine right now cylinder heads, cylinder blocks, and in the future structural components that we need to achieve mechanical properties. So the iterations are pretty fast. That's one of the things that is a key idea for this conference, the speed of the additive manufacturing. And also the design freedom. Design freedom is, you can imagine almost everything, and everything is feasible. You only need to learn the rules that you need to print. And then I always say that the complexity is free. In the traditional method, if you go to a CNC machine, they charge you because the complexity of the part. In additive manufacturing, there is no complexity. You can design everything that you want. So I think that's the way that this technology will help for innovations. It's like a new book. You can write everything. It's new.
Thank you, Alejandro. Francisco, your thoughts?
Well, when I think in these technologies, I think in 3 points. The first one is efficiency. Why? Because if we start a product doing mechanical simulation or doing thermal electrical simulation, we reduce the quantity of prototypes that we need to print. So if we start with that and do some interactions, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 interactions, we can achieve the perfect design. The second point, I think, is cost efficient, because in our case, instead of doing a soft tool, we can just 3D print it in-house. We have printers in the company that we can do it in 1 day or 2 days. And that will help us a lot to do the assembly and see what we are doing wrong and what we need to modify on these parts. And the last one is the waste reduction. I think it's important right now because all the companies want to be green, and we are, well, Siemens here in Monterrey, we use a lot of thermosets that it's not possible right now to rewind them. I know there are companies that are trying to do it, but here we have a lot of scrap. So if we start doing the 3D printing parts, using them for prototyping, it helps us a lot to don't do it a hard tool and throw in like 300 samples that the provider or the supplier send us. Just doing in-house.
Thanks, Francisco. Alejandro, with your experience in the automotive industry, what opportunities and challenges do these new technology manufacturing processes represent?
Yes. Right now in the automotive industry, it's a complete breakthrough. Right now we're moving to electrification, to e-mobility. We have a disruptor in the house, which is Tesla. So they are developing a lot. So I want to think not the additive manufacturing just as a final product. For example, in automotive industry, you use additive manufacturing as a tool. Probably in the future, we will have some kind of final parts in the car. But right now, we're using to speed out this development. For example, Tesla. Last week, they announced a very, very breakthrough in the industry, which I'm pretty sure that some of you listen about that, but they are suggesting that they can develop a new casting. Imagine that the car can be made in 3 parts. Those 3 parts will be together in a single part. How can they do that? They will start developing the process through additive manufacturing. The technology is binder jetting, so you can print cores, you can print huge cores, you can assemble those cores, and then cast the part and achieve one single part. So imagine that you can have a casting from here to almost at the end of this table. It's like 3 meters apart in aluminum. So it's the way that in the future will be. So this is a challenge for all of us, because we need to produce and we need to make the same developments to be in the same path. For example, as I mentioned, you don't need only to think as a final product. Additive manufacturing should be and need to be a tool just to improve your speed, your quality, your properties. The challenges, obviously, the price. Right now, it's very expensive. Additive manufacturing is very expensive. So we need to understand the curve, when to stop using additive manufacturing and when to start using traditional methods. I believe that we need to mix the current technologies, make an hybrid, make something to improve our current process and make them faster. For example, the traditional molds are steel molds by CNC machines, and the cooling lines are just some holes with water. But we are introducing the conformal cooling, which is a printed insert that can improve the cooling of the part, can improve the speed of the solidification, not only for aluminum, also for plastics. So in that way, in that mix, we can improve the quality of the part and achieve very new things. For example, if we move in the electric car, the key factor is the weight. If you have a heavy car, you will be your range will be very low. But if you have a light car, you can have more mileage, more kilometers to travel. So the idea is just to have the transformation from steel to aluminum. So imagine that you need to make an aluminum part stronger than a steel part. So the additive manufacturing can help those development to improve the quality, to improve the mechanical properties. So I think that's a challenge, and right now we're working for that, just to move from steel to aluminum and have lighter cars.
Thank you, Alejandro. Francisco, from Siemens' perspective as a multinational company, where in the world are the biggest opportunities for additive manufacturing focusing?
Well, I would like to say Germany, Japan, China, Spain, Singapore, but just because my coworker from the United States is here, I'm going to say United States. No, I'm just kidding. They are helping us a lot because they are our point of contact with Canada and a lot of in a lot of countries. They are helping us to move forward with this technology. Actually, right now, they are supplying us a 3D metal part that we are using on our products, and right now it is selling it. They are helping us to select or to improve new products or new parts just to 3D printed in-house, because we just have only plastic printers. So I think they are always pushing forward to collaborate with universities, with the government, with companies, to help the other countries that we are not in the center of AM from Siemens. So basically, I think they have a lot of divisions in Siemens, United States, like automotive, aerospatial, and medical. So I would say the United States is the one that has more important right now.
Thank you, Francisco. Osvaldo, considering FRISA's role in Mexico, what competencies or capabilities, talking about humanware, are expected from the industry to incorporate additive manufacturing as part of their production?
I will say the most important humanware skills are design thinking, deep material science knowledge, and of course, interdisciplinary research. I want to tell you about FRISA's case of study of additive manufacturing. As you know, or if you don't know, FRISA Aerospace manufactures seamless roll rings. We got billets as a raw material. We transform those billets in preforms, and then that preform is roll ringed to the final shape. That ring goes to the heat treatment, and after that, to rough machining, and so final machining. So one thing that is needed, as I said, is design thinking. How can we make that product different? How can we shorten the production time? We got together some interdisciplinary teams, design engineers, mechanical engineers, material science, scientific engineers, also engineering, and also sales. And we collaborate with a customer in Sweden to analyze if we can get one product, nickel-based product, that is not being analyzed to form as an additive manufacturing component. So we analyze two ways to do that component. It's in the hot area of the engine of the airplanes, made of nickel-based alloy, as I say, wasp alloy. So one is to make, as Alejandro said, a hybrid component. This component requires high grades of fatigue testing and also creep testing. So we foresee that if we just by LMD put the bolts on certain parts of the section of the forging, we may not reach that property. So we got a preform. We analyze how to get LMD in the middle stage of the forging and then get the final forging so we can get the grain size needed to get the properties needed for the final application. It was feasible from the technical point of view, but it was really, really not that cost effective for the volume of that part. So there were a lot of lessons learned. The human wear skills needed to reach the goal led us to go for a different material, titanium. What if we produce a titanium forged ring that we can reduce the input weight and then make the LMD at the end of the process? That was a research that took almost 2 years with the collaboration of the Swedish company, and finally we make it. That was the way that we can save time. It was under a business case, cost effective, and also, of course, because the input weight was reduced by half of the weight, initial weight, there were considerable reduction of the emissions of the gas and energy needed to produce that forging. So I will say it's not only the technical point of view, it's not only the skills of the material science and the design, but it's also need to be related with the business and with the case of study and the projections.
Very interesting, Osvaldo. Francisco, from Siemens' experience with additive manufacturing, how has it impacted or changed the way you operate and your KPI results?
Well, I think is the product development speed is the most important, because here, Siemens Santa Catarina, we are not owners of the design. We are just a manufacturing company. So for the residential is United States, for the industrial normally is Germany. So they are pushing us to do more products in less time. So I have in mind one product that I helped them with 3D printed parts. Basically, they were thinking the development of that product in 3 years. It was a case of thermoset, base and cover of thermoset. And while we were doing the DFM for the hard tool, because there's no soft tools on those technologies, we started to printing using a material called Ultem that can withstand a lot of temperature for our test. And I think we make like 20 prototypes in 1 week. And at the moment, we were thinking, this is the design. But when we started to assembly, we identified some features that we didn't have in mind in the simulation or the assembly. So we modified in-house and started to print it. So at the time that we have the quotation for the hard tool, we already made like 5 interactions of that sample. So at that moment, Germany was thinking, they are just waiting for the quotation. They are not doing anything. But when we tell them that we made like 5 examples of that design, they were like thinking, oh, wow, they are starting to use 3D printing. So the product development speed is important for us because that helps us to bring another products to our company and start manufacturing them. So basically, in 3 years, we had 2 new designs instead of only 1.
Thank you, Francisco. Alejandro, considering Nemak's impact as a Mexican company, especially in the development of new products for the automotive OEMs using sustainable manufacturing, what are some success stories in your operations, and how do you envision the national context?
Yes. Well, in the past, we used to receive a model from the customer. We used to start analyzing the 3D model, understand if we can do it, a feasible part for the process, and then we present to the customer that analysis. And then the customer just judge if you have enablers to achieve a good part for them. Now with additive manufacturing, for example, we can just change that. Instead of make an analysis, you can make a part. Usually you have 2 or 3 weeks to prepare that meeting. So you can prototype a part. You can make a real part, a functional part for that meeting because of the speed. And then, the conversation just changed with the customer. They just start seeing that you are not capable. You are more than that. And also, you have modification to their design. So you can improve the design for them, and then the conversation just change. Instead of, what do you think about this part? They will start seeing as a partner, Nemak as a partner. So that's I think is one of the biggest changes that we live day by day at Nemak, because right now we have the capability to just not make an analysis, make a real part for them in a very short lab. So also we changed our mindset. For example, Nemak used to start the production in alpha, beta, gamma phases. We start in beta phases. It's very complex to change a design of a OEM because a lot of work has done in the past. So you cannot change very easy a part from them. So if we start making prototypes for them from the beginning, we are able to modify, to influence in their design. So now we are a co-design team, not only a build-to-print company. Also, additive manufacturing, as I already said, we are moving from e-mobility, from combustion engine to e-mobility. So the portfolio of Nemak used to be cylinder blocks, cylinder heads, some structural component, but we don't have the resources to move that fast that the industry needs. So with additive manufacturing, we're exploring new processes, not only parts, processes. So we can improve of quality. We can be sure that the the current process that we can have, we can tweak it just to start producing new parts for electrification. So that's another advantage that I can see at Nemak. Opportunity in Mexico, I think the co-design. We in the past, we're a manufacturing country. So what happens if we start designing and testing and printing and building parts, not only for build to print. In this case, we need to go to build to spec. Tell to the OEMs, we're your partner. We can design for you anything that you need. And we can test it, and we can print it, and we can prove it. So I think that's the biggest opportunity here at Nemak, here in Mexico, just to move from a manufacturing country to a development country.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Osvaldo, could you discuss the strategies the aerospace sector is pursuing to promote additive manufacturing and the use of sustainable technologies? Do you think their operations are influencing other industry players?
Definitely. The experts say that by 2030, there will be close to 10 to 15% of the total components on the airplane's engines made out of additive manufacturing. So we are moving towards that direction. Now the challenge in the aerospace industry is how can the supply chain of the forgings can collaborate with the OEMs to get hybrid materials or hybrid solutions. It's not that we need or we can say that a casting product will satisfy the fatigue properties needed in the hot area of the engine. We need forgings. We need the direction of the grain structure. We need to meet the grip properties of the material. So it all comes to interdisciplinary research in the supply chain, in the forging, in the materials, and also in the OEM to allow this technology to get introduced in the specs that are made from the 70s or the 80s in the aircraft systems. Why you will say that it's not updated? Well, reliability. The airplanes are produced for long times with the same materials, at the same pace, and with the same technologies. So we need to make a breakthrough there in the aerospace industry. Of course, the zero emissions and the reduction of the CO emissions also from the complete footprint of the supply chain need to move toward that direction. So OEMs are collaborating now more and more with the forgings and the forge shops and the castings, and also the materials, raw materials suppliers to get solutions, to get lighter airplanes, to get better products on a short lead time, and basically meet and be as reliable as it is right now.
Thank you, Osvaldo. Finally, for all three of our panelists, what would Nuevo León or Mexico require to attract investment focused on these sustainable technologies? Are we prepared for the new manufacturing era?
Well,
go ahead, Osvaldo.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
So,
go ahead.
We have the manpower. We have also, when I say manpower, I will say from the mindset point of view. We have universities here in Mexico that educate the alumni to get the knowledge, the deep knowledge of the design thinking, the deep knowledge of the material science, and the bonding relations with other institutions and also with other countries to get the proper, I will say, people, humanware needed for this technology. So Nuevo León is well prepared, and we just need to get the OEMs and get the industry from foreign companies to look more deeply into Mexico for that.
Thank you, Osvaldo. Alejandro?
I think we are in our way. I think definitely we are in the correct path with forum like this. So we are discussing additive manufacturing. But I think one thing that we are missing is we need to understand the design for additive manufacturing. I think it's a term that is very well used in these days, that we need to understand how to improve the parts that we are printing by design. In our area, we receive a lot of interns from all the universities, and one thing that I can see that we are missing is the design. We need to improve our skills. We need to understand how the technology works, how can we extract the better, the better functions of the additive manufacturing. I think we need to improve that. If you have the machine, we can have the money. But if you put some trash goes in, trash goes out. So we need to improve our design. We need to understand very well how to design for the technology and how can we achieve, integration of components in the future, for example, in the mobility industry or in the aeronautic industry also. So I think we're in our way, but we still have to learn more.
Francisco?
Well, I think we need more events like this, where all the companies and the suppliers and the educational, all the professors are talking, we're working, doing networking. I think that's a lot important, and if this is made, if we make this every year or every 6 months, I think it will be more people attracted to this. A lot of students, a lot of companies, or even other countries to come here to Tec Monterrey. And the second one, I think we need to push forward the new generations to have a 3D printer. They are lower cost, like 2,000 pesos. They need to use it like an inkjet printer, like printing a document, just start to print it, know the technology. For example, I have a little kid of 3 years, and I have a printer in my house, so I'm teaching her. I don't know how much she's going to learn, but I'm teaching her that I can print her toys, just assembly a dinosaur. Doing some time with her, it's like I'm trying to her to know this technology is at the palm of her hand. Probably not all the people can buy a printer, but I think all the universities here in Monterrey or Mexico almost, they have 3D printers. And if we push forward all the new generations to use them, at the time they are doing some work in a company, they will know how to use it. Because I remember, how was 10 years, 11 years ago, when I used a printer, I was scared to blow off the printer. And I tried to print something, and it was a mess. So it was a mess in the company, but we can do it in our house before doing it in a company.
Thank you, Francisco. Before going to our Q&A section, I have a personal question for you guys. How can the industry and the academia collaborate to promote the use of this sustainable manufacturing? Alejandro?
Well, I think I already said, we can improve. I'm a designer. My major is design. So I think we can improve the software and the skills that we have in the academia. I receive a lot of students that they know SolidWorks, more or less. But I think for additive manufacturing, you need something more powerful. You need simulations. You need, NX, CATIA, something like that. Because in my personal experience, I receive a lot of students that they don't know how to design. So, and it's very common. It's not in the past, it's last week I received one, so they don't know how to design. So we can put the machine, we can put the money, we can put the experience, we can put the manpower. But if we don't have the proper inputs, we will not have nothing good from that machines. So I think the industry and the academia can collaborate with that kind of programs. For example, in Genius, we have some programs at Nemak that we invite some students to work for a summer. So we have resources. We can give them computers, license, everything. But we need to be ready to start learning design with the basics. In these days, we don't receive those kind of candidates.
Thank you, Alejandro. Osvaldo?
Well, once we have candidates from the schools that have deep knowledge of design, as my colleague said, we also need those fundamentals of material science. It's not always getting the hardware, getting the software, getting the experience to the designing, but also the material compositions and the properties that we are looking at, and how to modify those properties and how to customize those properties needed for the final specifications. So I will say getting students with deep knowledge of the material science, deep knowledge of the designing, and the industry will collaborate with the institutes, with the alumni, that have those two strong fundamentals.
Thank you, Osvaldo. And finally, Francisco?
Well, in my case, I am also a designer. We were talking about that before the meeting. I am agree to know how to design, how to optimize a part, also how to know which material we can use it. But as a designer working as an engineer, we don't know a lot of things. And the academia has a lot of knowledge, a lot of doctors that knows almost everything, I would say. And they can help us a lot with the knowledge. Yesterday in the workshop, I didn't know that we can measure the movement of a metal part that was machined and just simulate to reduce that movement. I didn't know that. So basically, the companies has the money, but it doesn't have the time sometimes. A few years ago, we worked with a tech in Semana E, where there was students doing a research on our products and help us also to have a new idea of what we need to do. So that collaboration between the companies and the academia, I think is important. I saw it in first person. So in my case, I think we are doing well with this kind of events, and the partnership with Tecnológico, I think is important because all the new generations know how the companies are working. Because in my case, I didn't know anything about engineering, but if I will have the opportunity to work with the companies before graduating, I think it will help me a lot.
Thank you very much, Francisco, and thank you very much to all of our panelists. I think that we have a lot of insights to pound to. Now we can go to our Q&A session for all our attendees and our virtual audience. So I don't know if there is any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, for your message. It's very important for us to hear what industry are thinking about the knowledge, the fundamentals that the students need to learn in order to really be prepared for these new technologies. And I have good news for you. Tec de Monterrey, the Universidad de Nuevo León, through the help of the local government in Nuevo León, we are really working very hard to make sure that you're going to have the right human resources to be prepared for these new challenges. So this is a good news for you, right? And the second, of course, it is important. This question is more focused on the technology, and I believe that the general public would like to hear what is exactly going on, and it is a general question for you. Based on what you mentioned, that the design process is really coming to a short design time, so how do you in the industry are really make sure that you are fulfilling with the requirements and certifications to make sure that this component, this new design, is really be working in the right performance, mechanical performance and other performance?
We do a lot of tests. Yes, and thank you for the students. I had a meeting with the cloud yesterday, so I know that they are working with that. So yes, we have intensive tests for the parts. We use destructive test also, so we can check the mechanical properties, yield, UTS, elongation, everything, roughness, and also we send some for the Nemak design. We send some parts to the customer, to the OEMs, and they can test in a, for example, a structural component. They can test in a crash test, a real crash one. So that's the way that we can validate the design. So the idea for that is to make very, very fast iterations to achieve a good parts and then send to the OEM. That's the way that we are doing. We would like to have the same equipment for as OEMs, for example, a vibration test, a vibration table, something like that. So right now we send to the OEMs. Probably in the future with this transformation, we will have our lab here in Nuevo León for all the companies, and probably we can test in-house instead of send to the OEMs.
I will say also the OEMs. OEMs specifications are very stringent, so they basically put the path on how to test, where to test, and on if it's on sampling or if it's destructive testing. So the way to make sure that this short lead time is fulfilling the properties is basically on our demand of customers' specifications. It's basically like that, and we know in FRISA that for the parts manufacturing in-house, there need to be, we need to cut some pieces, like the doctor said, makes with a biopsy to get to see if it's okay or not okay. For the aircraft engines, it is very stringent. So we need to cut the parts, we need to send it to the customer. They need to fix and modify the specifications to allow new technology to be introduced. So this is basic for us.
Well, in our case, we do a lot of simulations. We don't move a finger without a simulation, basically, because we are UL certified. So before thinking in a quotation, we start like a thermal, thermomagnetical, mechanical simulation, or even a mock-up simulation. And after that, we start doing some tests inside, because we have a laboratory there, where we test them in thermal, the thermal components and electrical components, just to certify the product is safe to have it in our house or in an hospital, because I think that's the most important. That's why the materials, the design, the component, all the product is certified by UL, basically.
Another question?
So first of all, thank you, Alejandro, Osvaldo, and Francisco for this wonderful panel. In your opinion, based on all this experience you've had, what would be the role of additive manufacturing in the nearshoring that we're experiencing, not in the future, but already? I know Alejandro has mentioned the example of Tesla, but I would like to hear from you if you have any more examples and an outlook on what the future, the near future will be regarding that. Thank you.
Yes, actually that's a very good point. I think we have an opportunity with additive manufacturing and in general, in the general industry. I think we, as I mentioned, we need to start moving from a manufacturing country to a developer country. So I think that's the best opportunity that we have to achieve that. So I think, for example, I always dream with a Mexican OEM for automotive company. So imagine that we can achieve that and we can start sending cars to them as the Chinese do here in Mexico. So I think that's the biggest opportunity that we can have with the nearshoring, just to start sharing a lot of technology, a lot of knowledge, because it's not development of one single person or a single country. It's I work as I think Francisco said, with Germany, with Italy, with the United States. So I think we have the resources, we have the opportunity just to bond that knowledge, that all the infrastructure that we can achieve with the nearshoring, just to start developing new opportunities for Mexico.
I will say collaboration also. Collaboration to modify the current designs, to move from the massive production to the customized production. It's also key to get advantage of this nearshoring. We have here our neighbors from the United States. We don't have, not many countries have that advantage as us here in Mexico. So moving for the mass production, moving from the natural, common, traditional, multi-stage manufacturing process to the customized, high added value process is what is the main advantage of the nearshoring.
Well, I think the additive manufacturing helps us a lot to reduce the waste of materials, and also we are pushing forward to reduce the inventory of components, because normally I would say a low volume a low volume part, we are selling them one each month, but we are injecting from China like 10,000. So basically we have like 600 years for that part. So if we push forward to print in-house, we will reduce all the inventory and all the waste from materials that probably the part will be obsolete before we use all the parts. So I think in those 2 points, the waste and the inventory in-house in the companies.
That will be all for this panel. Thank you very much again for your participation, and thank you very much to Tec de Monterrey for inviting us.